Good afternoon. We are here with another mediumship literature group. We meet each other Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Everybody's welcome to join us. It's free. And if you'd like to participate in our live discussions, just contact me on my Facebook page, Revenant, or my website, Revenant.world, and I'll be happy to add you. You can check our videos on our YouTube channel, Revenant, and I hope you can join us. So we are reading now the Spirits book by Allan Kardec, and we are going to continue today where we stopped, which is question 274, is about choices of trials, relationships in the spiritual realm. Let's do our initial prayer and we're going to start reading. Dear God, thank you very much for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to be here together, learning from you, from these wonderful wisdoms, from our enlightened spirits, which are your servants. Please help us to understand the things we need to learn and to put in our practice in our daily lives. Thank you very much for your unconditional love. Amen. So who would like to start reading?
I'm gonna start. Class Cat wants to go.
Thank you.
Give her a break.
Go ahead, Francis.
Okay. Do the different degrees which exist in advancement of spirits establish among the latter an hierarchy of powers? Are there among spirits subordination and authority? Yes, the authority of spirits over one another in virtue of their relative superiority is very great, and gives to the higher ones a moral ascendancy over the lower ones which is absolutely irresistible. Can spirits of lower degree withdraw themselves from the authority of those who are higher than themselves? I've said that the authority which comes of superiority is irresistible. Do the power and consideration which a man may have enjoyed in the earthly life give him supremacy in the spirit's world? No, for in that world the humble are exalted and the proud abased. Read the spawns. In what sense should we understand exalting and abasing? Do you not know that spirits are of different orders, according to their degree of merit? Therefore, he who has held the highest rank upon the earth may find himself in the lowest rank in the world of spirits, while his servitor may be in the highest. Is it this clear to you? Has not Jesus said that whoever exalt himself shall be based, and whosoever humbleth himself shall be exalted? When one who has been great upon the earth finds himself occupying an inferior place in the spirit world, does he feel humiliated by this change of position? Often exceedingly so, especially if he have been haughty and jealous. When a soldier after a battle meets his general in the spirit's world, does he still acknowledge him?
Don't forget to mention the question numbers so people can follow.
Oh, each time? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Question number 277. When a soldier after a battle meets his general in the spirit world, does he still acknowledge him as a superior? Titles are nothing. Intrinsic superiority is everything. Question 278. Do spirits of different order mix together in the other? Yes and no. That is to say, they see each other, but they are none less removed. They shun or approach. Give me 1 second here. I'll make it bigger because I can't read. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. One another according the empathies of sympathies of their sentiments, just as the case among yourself. The spirit's life is a whole world of varied condition and relationships. of which the earthly life is only the obscure reflex, those of the same rank are drawn together by a sort of affinity, and form group or families of spirits united by sympathy and common aim, the good, by the desire to do what is good, and the bad by the desire to do evil, by the shame of their wrongdoing, and by the wish to find themselves among those who they resemble. The spirit's world is like a great city, in which men of all ranks and conditions seize and meet one another without mixing together, in which various social circles are formed by similarity of taste, in which vice and virtue elbow each other without speaking to one another. Question number 279. Are all spirits reciprocally accessible to one another? The good go everywhere as it is necessary that they should do, in order to bring their influence to bear upon the evil-minded, but the regions inhabited by them are inaccessible to inferior spirits, so that the latter cannot trouble those happy about these by the introduction of evil passions. Question number 280. What is the nature of the relations between good and bad spirits? The good ones endeavor to combat the evil tendencies of the others, in order to aid them to raise themselves to a higher degree. This intercourse is for the former mission. Question number 281. Why do inferior spirits take pleasure in inducing us to do wrong? From jealousy, not having earned a place among the good, their desire is to prevent, as far as them lies, or their spirits as yet, and experience from attaining to the happiness from which they are excluded. They desire to make others suffer what they suffer themselves. Do you not see the working of the same desire among yourselves? Question number 282. How do spirits hold communication with one another? They see and comprehend one another's speech is material. It is a reflex of spirit. The universal fluid establishes a constant communication between them. It is the vehicle by which thought is transmitted, as the air in your world is the vehicle of sound. This fluid constitutes a sort of universal telegraph, which unites all worlds and enables spirits to correspond from one world to another. Question number 283. Can spirits hide their thoughts from each other? Can they hide themselves from one another? Nope. With them, everything is open, and especially so with those who have attained to a perfection. They may withdraw from one another, but they are always visible to each other. This, however, is not absolute rule. From the higher spirits are perfectly able to render themselves invisible to the lower ones when they consider it useful to do so. Question number 284. How can spirits who have no longer a body establish their individuality and cause it to be distinguishable from that of the other spiritual being by whom they are surrounded? Their individuality is established by the spirit, which makes of each spirit a separate personality, distinct from all the others, as the body does among men. Question number 285. Do spirits recognize one another as having lived together upon the earth? Does the son recognize his father, their friend, his friend? Yes, and from generation to generation. How do those who have known each other on earth recognize one another in the world of spirits? We see our past life and read therein, and as in hook, on seeing the past of our friends and our enemies. We see their passage from life to death. Question number 286. Does the soul see immediately on quitting its mortal remains, the relations and friends who have returned before it into the world of spirits? Immediately is not always the right word, for, as we have said, the soul requires some time to resume its self-consciousness and to shake off the veil of materiality. Question number 287. How is the soul received on its return to the spirit world? That of the righteous as a dearly beloved brother whose return has been long awaited, for that of the wicked with content. Question number 288. What sentiment is experienced by impure spirits at the sight of another bad spirits on his arrival among them? Such spirits are gratified at seeing others who resemble them and who, like them, are deprived of the highest happiness, just as band of scoundrels upon the earth are gratified at meeting with another scoundrel like themselves. Question number 289. Do our relatives and friends sometimes come to meet us when we are leaving the earth? Yes, they come to meet the soul of those they love. They felicitate it as one who has returned from a journey if it has escaped the dangers of the road, and they aid it, freeing itself from the bonds of the flesh. To be met thus by those they have loved and is a favor granted to the soul upright, while the soul of the wicked is punished by being left alone, or is only surrounded by spirits like itself. Question number 290. Are relative and friends always reunited after that? That depends on their relation and on the road they have to follow for their advancement. If one of them is further advanced and progress more rapidly than the other, they cannot remain together. They may see one another occasionally, but they can only definitely reunited when he who has been is able to keep pace with him who was before, or when both of them shall have reached the state of perfection. Moreover, the privation of the sight of relatives and friends is sometimes inflicted on a spirit as a punishment. Sympathies and antipathies of spirits.
Okay, so before we started this new part, there's any comments or questions? What did you guys understand?
I'm not going to comment on what I understood because I think it's pretty simple, but there was a part where something clicked. I think when I was a younger girl, like young adult, I would be tempted to do drugs, and I really felt like it wasn't my temptation at times. Like I would have like recurring dreams of doing cocaine, and I wasn't like, I had tried stuff, but I wasn't into all of those hard things. But I really remember like thinking like, this is almost obsessive, like I'm never gonna do it because of that, you know, but I remember at that age thinking like, it's weird, it's really weird.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have learned from past lives, right? So they just gave an example
Mm-hmm.
of how much we are more immature when we are young in this life, the same way as the spirits are more or less immature, and their choices are based on the level of maturity that they have reached, right?
Yeah.
But yes, I understand what you're saying. There's differences between even in kids, right? Some kids are very mature, and others, like even compared to some old people, they have a better understanding, better sense of things, even though they don't know much about life in the beginning, but they carry their wisdom from past lives. It's interesting.
That's what we call them, old soul. Sometimes people are being called old soul. I think
Yes,
that's where it comes from. Like you have kids 15, 20 years old that way more mature than people are 50, 55.
absolutely. Yes, it happens all the time. And sometimes there are cases where the children are more mature than the parents, right? Didn't you ever see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Some parents are very mature and kids are more mature, and it's it can be a trial for them, for both of them, especially for the kids, to be subordinated to someone that's less evolved. But I mean, just for people that would be home following our video, like, let's do a little summary of what we read, which is very, very important things for us to know. So they talk about the relationships in the spiritual realm. So they have, I'm not going to go to every single question, but basically they say that we, these spirits get together based on the level of their evolution. So because the spirits evolve gradually from incarnation to incarnation, and also depends on their efforts to evolve themselves, to grow. So we come here, we agglomerate here, like, for example, who are our friends, who are our family, also based on sympathy, also based on levels of development, even though sometimes there are discrepancies. Sometimes people are born in certain families in a lower level of the other people in their family, and vice versa. Sometimes they are much more evolved. And that's all like contracts that people make before they incarnate, to help them or to evolve, etc. But for the most part, people get together based on their level, if they are in the same level of evolution. And then as we are going through our lives here, some may put more effort or evolve faster than others, and then when they get to the spiritual world, they're not necessarily going to get together if the differences are too high between them. And they are talking about also if every spirit can go everywhere. And they said the higher the level of evolution morally of the spirit, the more freedom they have to go everywhere. But the lower level spirits, they cannot go everywhere they want, because otherwise they are going to ruin the happiness of the more evolved spirits. They also ask about, I think this is something that's very, very important for us to know. The fact that they said why lower level spirits like to make the other people unhappy, why they have pleasure to inflict suffering on other spirits or other people. They do that with other spirits that is not incarnated, and with the spirits that are incarnated. So and they said that that's because they are jealous of the happiness that the higher level spirits enjoy, and they don't think that they're going to ever enjoy that kind of a happiness. So they get bothered by the happiness of others. Don't we see people like that here as well? All the time, right? Sometimes people are jealous, and if you evolve, if you get some accomplishments, they kind of really boycott you. I met people who even get mad, get bothered just for the fact that people are just happy, like they smile, they have that optimistic attitude in life, and that makes them really uncomfortable and really mad. So that's, you know, the level of sadness and pain that they live, and they don't even realize that they can get out of that state if they put an effort in growing and get close to God and evolving their spirit and learning their lessons and learning how to be a better person. So, and we need to be really aware, because those signs are very important for us to identify positive and negative spirits. And even though when they are in the spirit, they can disguise themselves, they can pretend, but there's always ways for us to see, for us to feel their presence. If it's a respectful presence, if they are, you know, comfortable, it makes us feel comfortable. And if they invade our space, if they are forceful, all those things are characteristics of lower level spirits. So I think that's kind of the core of it, right?
Well, the part that says that when a soldier after a battle meets a general, and it says if he sees, acknowledge him as a superior, which there's no great, like it doesn't matter what you had on Earth. Now
Yeah,
in the spirit world, and now we see who's
exactly. So the privileges and the hierarchy that people have here in the planets when they are incarnated is not proportional to their level of their spirituality. There are hierarchy in the spiritual world, but it's not based on the same criteria as here in our world. It's based on moral levels, right? The more morally evolved the spiritual is, the more they are higher in a higher rank. And that's a good point. So anything else that you guys, that I missed that we should mention too?
No, I think we're good. Maybe we can move on to the next section.
Okay, so let's continue, which would be affinity of spirits and eternal health.
You want to try it, Kat?
Yeah, I'll go. Sympathies and antipathies of spirits, eternal halves. 291. Have spirits special personal affections among themselves, besides the general sympathy resulting from similarity? Yes, just as among men, but the link between spirit is stronger when the body is absent, because it is no longer exposed to the vicissitudes of the passions. Sandra, do you mind turning off your mic, please?
Okay.
So, do spirits have personal affections? Yes, just as among men, but the link between spirit is stronger when the body is absent, because it is no longer exposed to the vicissitudes of the passions. 292. Do spirits experience hatred amongst themselves? Hatreds only exist among impure spirits. It is they who sow hatreds and dissensions among men. Do those who have 293. Do those who have been enemies on earth always retain their resentment against one another in the spirit world? No, for they often see that their hatred was stupid and perceive the puerility of the object by which it was excited. It is only imperfect spirits who retain the animosities of the earthly life, of which they rid themselves in proportion as they become purified. Spirits whose anger, as men, has been caused by some merely material interests, forget their dissension as soon as they are dematerialized. The cause of their dissension no longer existing, they may, if there be no antipathy between them, see each other again with pleasure. Just as two schoolboys, when they have reached the age of reason, perceive the folly of their boyish quarrels, and no longer keep up a grudge against each other on account of them. 294. Is the remembrance of wrongs they may have done to one another as men an obstacle to sympathy between two spirits? Yes, it tends to keep them apart. 295. What is the sentiment after that of those whom we have wronged? If they are good, they forgive you as soon as you repent. If they are bad, they may retain resentment against you and may even pursue you with their anger in another existence. This may be permitted by God as chastisement. 296. Are the individual affections of spirits susceptible of change? No, for they cannot be mistaken in one another. The mask under which hypocrites hide themselves on earth has no existence in the world of spirits, and their affections, when they are pure, are therefore unchangeable. The love which unites them is a source of supreme felicity. 297. Does the affection which two spirits have felt for each other upon the earth always continue in the spirit world? Yes, undoubtedly, if that affection were founded on sympathy, but if physical causes have had more share in it than sympathy, it ceases with those causes. Affections are more solid and lasting among spirits than among men, because they are not subordinated to the caprices of material interests and self-love. 298. Is it true that the souls of those who will eventually be united in affection are predestined to the union from their beginning, and that each of us has thus, in some part of the universe, his other half, to whom he will someday be necessarily reunited? No, there is no such thing as any special and fated union between any two souls. Union exists between all spirits, but in different degrees, according to the rank they occupy. That is to say, according to the degree of perfection they have acquired. And the greater their perfection, the more united they are. It is discord that produces the ills of human life. The complete and perfect happiness at which all spirits eventually arrive is the result of concord. In what way should we understand the term other half, sometimes employed by spirits to designate other spirits for whom they have special sympathy? The expression is incorrect. If one spirit were the half of another spirit, he would be, if separated from that other, be incomplete. 300. When two perfectly sympathetic spirits are reunited in the other world, are they thus reunited for all eternity, or can they separate from each other and unite themselves with other spirits? All spirits are united amongst themselves. I speak of those who have reached a state of perfection. In the spheres below that state, when a spirit passes from a lower phase to a higher one, he does not always feel the same sympathy for those whom he had quitted. 301. When two spirits are completely sympathetic, are they the complement of each other? Or is that sympathy the result of their perfect identity of character? The sympathy which attracts one spirit to another is the result of the perfect concordance of their tendencies and instincts. If one of them were necessary to complete the other, he would lose his individuality. 302. Does similarity of thoughts and of sentiments suffice to constitute this kind of identity which is necessary to the production of perfect sympathy? Or is it uniformity of acquired knowledge also required for its production? Perfect sympathy between two spirits result from equality in the degree of their elevation. 303. May spirits who are not now sympathetic become so in the future? Yes, all will be sympathetic in the course of time. Thus, of two spirits who were once together, one may have advanced more rapidly than the other, but the other, though now in a lower sphere, will be and by have advanced sufficiently to be able to enter the highest sphere in which the former is now residing. And their reunion will take place all the sooner if the one who was most advanced should fail in the trials he has still to undergo, and so should remain for a time just where he is now, without making any further progress. May two spirits who are now sympathetic cease to be so. Certainly, if one of them is wanting in energy and lags behind while the other is advancing. The hypothesis of twin souls is merely a figurative representation of the union of two sympathetic spirits and must be understood literally. The spirits who have made use of this expression are certainly not of high order, and therefore, as their range of thought is necessarily narrow, they have sought to convey their meaning by using the terms they were accustomed to employ in their earthly life. The idea that two souls were created for one another, and that after having been separated for a longer or shorter period, they will necessarily be eventually reunited for all eternity, is therefore to be entirely rejected. Pause.
Any questions or comments about this section?
Hello, Nikki.
Nice to see
I'm
you,
just
Nikki.
gonna listen.
Uh-huh.
I know, struggling with the time difference, but here I am.
Okay. So any questions or comments about this section?
Makes a lot of sense to me, because I always felt like the whole twin souls rhetoric it kind of felt like bullshit unless you were like feeling it, like, you know, like, okay, like my soul sister, like of course you're gonna have affinities with other people, and there's some other people whose soul's gonna feel like very familiar to you. But to me, like anything beyond that was it really felt off. And I had one person once like try to get me into this thing, and I was just like, no, wait.
Yeah, otherwise it would be only one chance to be happy. If you find
Yeah.
your twin soul, and the other side is would also be true, which is like if you don't find that soul, it will never be complete. So it's kind of absurd, right? It's wonderful to see that's not the case.
Yeah, like I don't mind when people use the word soulmate, and like, okay, we can have like a bunch of soulmates, you know,
Yeah.
like, and it could be friendship, it could be like mates of the soul, you know, like.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and
But the twin soul or twin flame rhetoric is really not my thing.
yeah, and it's not true, right? It's not true. And the fact that when the spirits are all, the more the spirits evolve, they are always together. I mean, they always relate to each other. They are all like as a great brotherhood and sisterhood of spirits, right? So there's like they ask, like if you have a sympathy, if you have like a very strong connection with one, and they're always going to be together, not necessarily because one may evolve more than the other, but this feeling of, like you said, of soulmates are somehow common. The more the spirits evolve, they all feel like this. They all feel close together, and is a great sympathy amongst themselves, regardless. There's no preference, there's no little niches, there's no of those kind of stuff that we feel here, we experience here in this planet, because there's overall universal love amongst them, right? It's so beautiful. And that's our aim, right? That's what we need to try because that's going to bring us much more happiness and also solve so many problems we have here in our planet. Anything else? All right.
I'm sorry, I was unable to catch up to that thing. Yeah, but it's okay. I'm trying to get the gist of it. Are you talking about like a twin flame versus soulmate?
Yeah.
Because so many people are romanticizing this idea of a twin flame, like he's my twin flame and all that. I just don't simply believe that a twin flame is always about having a lover,
Mm-hmm.
or some people are always
Yeah,
saying
that's
that
how
your twin
people
flame.
use it. That's how people use it, but it's not like there's no twin souls
Yeah,
that they need to
yeah,
meet each other. There's no other half of
yeah.
a soul, and there's not such a thing. It's like there's sympathy between spirits and sometimes a very strong connection
Mhm.
energetically, but it doesn't mean that's only with that person ever.
Yes,
You can have that same
Mhm.
feeling with amongst friends, amongst family, amongst people that we can't encounter, that there's no romantic tone
Yeah,
with that. Mhm.
agree. Yeah, that's true. I agree. Yeah.
So any other, and the other thing that was very interesting for me to read is the fact that they emphasize, they explain the fact that if the union in a romantic relationship or in a couple is based on really energetic affinities, they are going
Mhm.
to continue that
Mhm.
affinity in the other life. But if it's solely based on flesh, on sex, or not that sex is bad, but if there's no energetic or
Mhm.
spiritual affinity, that's gonna dissipate. That
Mhm.
affinity, that union is gonna dissipate. It's not gonna be continue on the other side, which is really interesting. And also a warning for us to pay attention, for all of us humans to pay attention. Sometimes we make connections either through loved ones, through romantic relationships, or even friendships with people that are extremely different from us energetically. Not that we need to
Mhm.
discriminate, but especially on a romantic relationship, we need to be really careful because we exchange so much energy as a
Yeah.
couple, right? In many
Yeah.
levels. We exchange so
Mhm.
much energy, and that can be really detrimental for the person that's more evolved,
Mhm.
and that can be
Mhm.
really damaging. So we need to be really careful. There's little differences is okay, but like a huge discrepancy can be extremely destructive. Um, so we need to pay attention, like judge each other based on our souls much more than our appearance, right?
Yeah. I have a question about that affinity. Or energy. I know somebody who's actually he's a male. He's married with children,
Mm.
trying for many months to connect with me to see I felt the energetic connection with him, like, it's really strong. But then again, I refuse it on the basis that he's married, children. And how is that thing? How are you going to resolve something like that? Like
Yeah,
that it's just gonna end,
perhaps
Do you have to do world packing?
perhaps you guys have met in other lives, um,
Yeah.
and and there's this connection, and also sometimes people make decisions that are, it can be just like we have, like Catherine said, we have multiple soulmates, and we
Mhm.
are, as long as we are in the same level of evolution, we have sympathy for each other, and we have multiple really strong encounters, and even in the same life. So perhaps you guys cross paths, and whatever you guys do can be the trial for both of you, right?
I know, I know.
Because
But the thing is,
decisions.
if I listen to myself on a human level, I
Mm-hmm,
would probably give in.
mm-hmm.
But then again, like I said, not unless you're spiritually evolved, then you
Yeah,
know
yeah. He's the one.
already in. It's
Yeah, he's the one who has the commitment with the other person. So if the relationship is
yeah,
solid, they need to then you need to back off to do the right thing, and also he needs to back off because it's not morally good right for the other person, right? The other person
yeah,
is gonna suffer. So if there's anyone suffering with anything we do, it's not the right thing. It's not
yeah.
about this hypocritical moral standard. Is about
Mm,
who is suffering. Is there anybody suffering? Then it's not good. It can be
yeah.
just like if you're eating an ice cream. Is there anybody suffering if with that choice of me eating the ice cream? There's any implication that's gonna be causing pain for anybody? Then if there is,
Mhm.
it's not the right thing. I should not eat the ice cream. So everything we do, it needs to be based on that. And also if it's going to be good for me or not. If the ice cream is like, is going to be bad for my health, then I should not do either. So yeah, we encounter multiple situations, not this kind of stuff, but everything, every time, all the time in our lives, we encounter situations where is trials, right? That we
Then,
like we are put in test, like whatever we gonna do, whatever choices we're gonna make in that situation is gonna help us to evolve or to get stuck, right, in our process.
exactly. But can you
So
imagine if a lot of people, then I think there will be less pain because we humans give in to this romantic feeling, like, oh, okay, I also like him. You both like each other, but you don't care if the other person is married with
mhm,
children because you just base it on your own feelings. But then um, because people are saying to me like, well, we're energetically connected in the past life, so we should be together again. And I say, yeah, but he's married with children.
yeah,
So what are you gonna do about that?
yes, it's about,
Yeah.
it's for him to decide, to judge. If like he needs to be honest, right, with himself
Mm-hmm.
and with the other person. Like divorce is not necessarily a wrong thing if it comes from a place of respect for every part involved, and if he honors his obligations as a husband and an ex-husband and a father. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily a bad thing, but not because of somebody else. It cannot be because of somebody else. It needs to be because of that specific relationship. The relationship is working or not. And sometimes people like look for other people outside extramarital
Yeah.
relationships because they are running away from their own obligations of working on that relationship. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like a coward coping skill to not to deal with their own problems. So that's not an evolved thing to do if when
Yeah.
people do that. So people need to be honest, respectful, and sincere in everything they do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes we also need to understand that lower spirits are not. I don't know this guy. I'm not talking about him, but I'm talking in general sense. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes lower spirits, they feel extremely attracted by higher spirits because they are vampires.
Yes, I agree.
They
Uh-huh.
want someone to suck their energy
Mm-hmm.
away, and they also
Yes.
are not happy with their happiness, so they want to put them down in order to feel pleasure of, I'm not happy, nobody's gonna be happy. That's their kind of pleasure. We read that a little before you came. So we also need to be aware of that, because they can be really charming. Lower level spirits are really charming. They know how to seduce. And sometimes we feel that we act upon their desire. In psychology, we call this transference and counter-transference, right? That's a real thing. So sometimes we need to be aware, okay, is that what I'm feeling is really true, or I am just acting out what they wanted me to feel because it's convenient to them? So we need to judge, observe the other person and see which kind of level of spirituality they are. If they are lower level of spirits than you, that's not going to be good. Probably he's seducing you because he needs your energy, but it's not going to be necessarily good for you, regardless of the marriage situation.
Yes, true.
I agree.
Yeah. But it's really hard. I mean, not unless you're really spiritually evolved, you give in to your earthly desires, it's really difficult to resist.
Yeah.
I mean,
but give yourself time. Give yourself time. Situations where we don't feel we have a choice are red flag, right? Always red flag. Then give yourself time, because it can be really charming and attracting at first, but then when you give yourself time, you really understand that, okay, that's not a good thing for me, regardless of their marital situations. Like, just pay attention. All right, we have 5 minutes, so perhaps we can wrap up here for today, because we have another group. And we're going to continue next time in 2 weeks on Memory of Incarnate Lives, question 304. So let's do our final prayer. Dear God, thank you very much for this day. Thank you for those wonderful lessons. Help us to apply in our daily lives, and help us to help each other with those wisdoms, help each other to grow and be happy with each other's growth and happiness, and help those who are not in the same understanding, without putting our safety in jeopardy. Thank you for your love and protection every single day in our lives. Gives us wisdom to make choices and to continue our growing process and help each other to grow. Thank you for your unconditional love. Amen. Okay, so for those who are home watching us, we're going to be back in 2 weeks at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Everybody's welcome to join us. Just contact me through my Facebook page, Revenant, or my website, Revenant.world, and I'll be happy to add you to our live discussions. So have a wonderful week, and I look forward to see you then.